I'm on the front page of Reddit today. So I can't explain how this happened, but I'll do my best to figure out how I went about this. I think there are 4 key variables. First, of course, the photo. I think it's a good photo. It's not an amazing photo, but we'll get to that in a second. Second, I think, is the caption. A lot of the discussions that ended up happening on the post were related to the caption. So the caption, I think, it needs to sort of be the setup for jokes. There are a lot of jokes going around whether my gear is expensive or not expensive. For astrophotography, my gear is humble, truly. So it generated a few jokes, a really good thread of jokes that's actually ranking at the top now. And then it also generated debate. Some people shared kind of like the pricing of actual astrophotography equipment. So these discussions worked really well. That's number 1. Number 2, I think, is time. I published this photo and the eclipse was not over yet. I literally shot this picture outside on the sidewalk and came back upstairs, edited the photo really quick in Lightroom and published it. Now at this time, this was 11 p.m. my time, there were very few photos of the eclipse going on. And all the photos that you would see on Reddit would be kind of like high zoom photos of the moon that maybe somebody took with their phones through a telescope lens. There were no like really fully produced photos at this time. So this was very intentional. I was trying to beat the pro photographers with the much better gear. I was trying to beat them to it, and it seems to have worked. Another variable with time, I think, is the time of the day. So I've had some success publishing on Reddit on late nights. I've never had a post as successful as this by any means, but the ones that have done decently well, I've published sometimes in late night, which means that it gets some early traction from people who are awake, and then from people on other time zones. And then by the morning of the US, the post ranks recently well and then it skyrockets. Last night, I went to sleep when this publication had maybe 1,000 or 2,000 upvotes, and I woke up to 30,000, and then in the morning it went from 30 to 75,000. So it's obviously a very viral, very exponential curve. And then finally, the last thing to consider is the subreddit. I also published this photo on the astrophotography subreddit. I think people there are used to more professional, better gear, like longer exposure, really amazing photos. This photo it's an amateur photo that has some tints of pro in it. And that's what I think made it stood out. Let's talk about the photo itself. I don't have the gear to shoot a photo of the moon in an extreme close-up and look at the craters and all this stuff. I don't have the gear to do that. I have a Celestron D70 telescope that is a 400 millimeter lens equivalent. So this is a telescope, it's not a photo camera lens, which means there's no autofocus, it's heavy and clunky, and so I had to mount the telescope on this very cheap tripod that I own. Sort of the weight of the tripod would bring the camera down sometimes, so I brought this pillow backpack thing that I would put behind just in case the camera fell down. So I used a T-ring adapter, which is a special thing that connects to your camera mount to the telescope, which I had never used before. And then since the moon was so up in the sky, I had a lot of trouble to get the camera to focus. And you can see how with a tripod like this, it wasn't easy at all. But then since I couldn't get the close-up of the moon, I had to compose a shot with what I got, right? So the shot itself is this big, but then the moon looks too small. So I cropped it a little bit and then increased some of the exposure on the photo to bring out some of that blue in the sky. Corrections in Lightroom, mainly revolving around exposure. Clarity helped a lot because it brought out this detail. I did it really quick. Maybe it took me 15 minutes to edit. I really wanted to publish the photo fast. But then I think that the contrast of the red of the moon, the side of the moon that is not red, and the blue sky sort of made the photo stand out a little bit from from your classical moon in the middle, black sky around. And all of this I learned, by the way, from Luis, which is this amazing photographer that owns a blog called To The Wonder. So kudos to him for teaching me this. Export for screens, which I think is a very useful feature that sort of optimizes the photo for screen sharpness, and then plug it in. Now, I am a digital marketing. I own a company called Slidebean and work as part of the marketing team there. So this for me is a dream. This is the dream to understand what happens, like what can you do when you're in the front page of Reddit. First of all, yeah, your inbox will crash. You'll get a lot of comments and you won't be able to catch up. I've been trying to read them all and I've had a lot of fun reading. I can't really keep up maybe in a few days. Second, I try to plug in my Instagram account, and then I got maybe 100 followers from that, so it's nothing too relevant. Before I went to sleep, I came up with this idea of sharing the full resolution version of the photo on my website. So as I'm shooting this in the morning, in which I'm still close to the front page, my website has gotten maybe 500 visits. Try to plug in my YouTube account and ask people to subscribe in exchange for the full resolution download. You should subscribe, by the way. But that also didn't work very well, maybe 20 subscribers. So I'm also making this video just in the 5 minutes of fame that I'm getting. But yeah, from a marketer side, I don't think that there's a lot of exposure to be gained, at least moving people out of Reddit. Everything that you get, it sort of happens in Reddit. If Sony contacts me to give me a Neo free lens, I will let you know. Wink, wink, Sony. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you like the photo. Check out the links below if you want the full resolution version, or if you want to look at the Reddit post itself. There are some really fun threads out there. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.